Good evening, good evening, good evening to my fellow alumni. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you here for a virtual town hall conversation with our University of Michigan-Dearborn Chancellor, Domenico Grasso. Tonight, Chancellor Grasso will be sharing the ways that our UM-Dearborn family is supporting our students during these challenging times, describing what the fall 2020 semester will look like, and discussing the ways that we, you and I, U of M Dearborn alumni, can get involved and make a difference. We had an absolutely amazing response to this event. Alumni are joining us from all across the country, representing multiple decades of graduating classes. So let me begin by saying welcome, good evening, and as always, go blue. Just by way of introduction, my name is David Kniezek. I'm a 2012 graduate of the University of Michigan-Dearborn College of Arts, Sciences, and Letters, and a past chair of our Alumni Society Board. I am thrilled to be the moderator for tonight's virtual town hall meeting. Now, I know that we're all eager to get started, but first, just a few housekeeping items. Number one, please know that this event is being recorded. It's going to be posted to our alumni engagement website in the next few days. Number two, for all of our alumni attendees, your microphone will be kept off and your video will not be displayed throughout the virtual town hall. All you have to do is sit back, soak up the information. You don't have to worry about being on camera. If you're trying to fit in a quick bite to eat after work, please do so knowing that it's not going to be recorded. And then finally, thank you to everyone who submitted questions in advance. If at any time during the event you have a question that you want to submit to the Chancellor, just look at the bottom of your screen there. You'll see a Q&A button. If you click on that and submit your question, it will be sent directly to our team. And we're going to set aside some time at the end to go through those questions that you submit throughout the course of the town hall. Now, I have the great pleasure of introducing the man of the hour, our Chancellor, Domenico Grasso. Domenico Grasso is the 6th Chancellor of the University of Michigan-Dearborn and the first Michigan graduate to lead our university. He's also an executive officer at the University of Michigan. Prior to joining U of M Dearborn in 2018, he was the provost and chief academic officer at the University of Delaware. Earlier in his career, he held posts as Smith College's Rosemary Bradford Hewlett Professor and founding director of the Picker Engineering Program, the first engineering program at a women's college and one of the few at a liberal arts college in the United States. I'm always proud to talk about the fact that he is a former Army officer and earned his PhD from the University of Michigan in environmental engineering. And within that field, environmental engineering, Chancellor Grasso is considered a leading academic. He has published extensively in the areas of environmental engineering and engineering educational reform. He's held numerous high-profile posts, including as an advisor to NATO, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the National Academy of Engineering. Chancellor Grasso also has a passion for holistic engineering education and has reasoned for the importance and inclusion of the social sciences, arts, and humanities within STEM education. I say all that to say good evening and welcome to our Chancellor, Domenico Grasso.
David, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Both my parents, unfortunately, passed away, but they would have been very proud to have heard that introduction of their son. And one thing you did not mention is that I, like many of our students and alums, am a first-generation college student. So I have taken advantage of the same opportunities that we're providing for our students on campus on a daily basis. I'm coming to you today from the backyard at the Chancellor's residence in beautiful Dearborn, Michigan. And I just want to say how delighted I am to be able to speak to our alums all across the country about some of the great things that are happening on campus. As all of you know, this is a crazy time we're dealing with. Not only are we in the middle of this pandemic, the economy is in a topsy-turvy status, and we're dealing with a lot of social unrest in our cities. Everything is a a new frontier for us right now. And we're trying to set things right, not only across the country, but on our campus as well. We've been really dealing with preparing for the coming semester since this all started back in March. We've been thinking about this. I have to give a lot of credit to all the people that I work with, my senior staff, faculty members, students, staff, everybody who has helped really think through how we're going to proceed going forward. It seems like, I am sure that this is the case for many of you as well, that time is either standing still or incredibly fluid, because the beginning of the day and the end of the day, the weekends, they all meld together, and people are working harder now than they've ever worked before. And I can say that about everybody on our campus. People are just putting in very long hours, thinking through every possible way that we can provide a safe and outstanding education for our students in the coming fall. And personally, of course, I have children that I'm, as you probably do, many of you do, are worried about. And I do have to say I'm very proud of one of our children, our daughter, who is doing Teach for America in New Orleans. And New Orleans, as you know, is a very hot spot, big hot spot for COVID, but she just started in the classroom again this week, went in there with her students. They're socially distanced, and they're doing a fine job. And she's trying to, in addition to facing all these changes, she's trying to teach them high school geometry, which is challenging for a lot of people in the best of times. So this really makes it a challenge for her to get through. But I do want to say to David, thank you very much for leading the Alumni Association as president this year. He's a terrific representative of our campus and of our educational process here, and we're delighted to have him. I hope that we can keep him on for a few more years. Maybe we could have some special executive order that keeps him in place because he's doing such a terrific job.
Well, I appreciate that, Chancellor. And again, just want to reiterate how appreciative we all are for you joining us this evening, taking the time to, have a candid conversation and a comprehensive conversation about what you're seeing on campus. So I'd love to just jump right into it. 2 years ago, when we first spoke on campus, I remember being struck by how genuine you were with wanting to build relationships with not just the campus community, not just the students, but also with the alumni, and you wanted to humanize the interaction. And so just to get a sense of things, this is obviously unprecedented times that we're living in. How are you holding up? How's Susan holding up? You talked about the kids. How is the Grasso family dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, it is interesting, because I think how we deal with it and how other people deal with it is really a reflection of their socioeconomic status in our society. And we're dealing with it as best as can be expected. But we are fortunate because we have stable jobs, we have a roof over our heads, we have income. And what I am most concerned about is, and this characterizes many of our students, is that things are not as secure or as workable as it is for us. We're working hard. We're working long hours. Everybody is doing the best they can to make ends meet, but we do also have the benefits of our particular positions in life, which we're fortunate for. But a day does not go by that I don't think about individuals that are not as fortunate as we are and what they're facing in this very challenging time.
Well, I appreciate that recognition of the challenges that our students are going through. I think that's actually a good transition into what I think is at the forefront of everyone's minds right now. Classes begin in just 15 days on September 1st. What can you tell us about the university's campus plan for the fall 2020 semester?
That's a great question. First, I want to thank you, David, for your service, because you recognize that I was an Army officer, you were in the Marine Corps, and I want to point that out as well. But we've been planning for many weeks and months about what to do in the fall. What we finally landed on is, in the best efforts to keep our students, faculty, and staff safe, is that we are going to be in a hybrid mode, mainly online education, with only the courses that are really necessary to be taught in person, lab courses, senior design courses. So about 15% of our academic offerings are going to be offered in class. When they are offered on campus, we are going to socially distance. We're going to have a very sparsely populated campus. We're going to go through checking individuals as they enter the buildings. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that our students, faculty, and staff are very safe, and we can still offer a premier education on campus. Online, our faculty have been working over the summer to really create a robust online experience that's not just a talking head, as I am right now, with a blackboard behind me, but really different types of modules that can be brought in and have an enhanced online experience for our students. So we're doing everything to make sure that we maintain the high level of Michigan education that everybody's come to expect, and we're doing everything to keep our students safe. We're going to start, as you said, on the 1st of September, but we're also going to end all our, I'm sorry, we're near the airport. You can probably hear the plane going overhead. We're going to end all online activities by Thanksgiving, and on-campus activities by Thanksgiving, and go completely online starting there. And I do want to say that we were among the very first universities to forego fall sports, which, as you know, the Big Ten just decided to do it. The Pac-12 has done it. Many other conferences have done it. But we knew that to keep our student athletes safe, this is the only possible way forward.
And when you talk about the students that are enrolled, whether it be participating on campus, online, in a hybrid model, what is that enrollment looking like? Are we seeing increases? Are we seeing dips? What type of numbers are we seeing here for Um-Dearborn?
Well, that's a great question. Over the spring and summer, the summer courses, we were actually up 6% in enrollment. We're too early to know what the fall is going to look like, because we really don't know until the students show up on the first day of classes. But right now, everything looks pretty strong at the undergraduate level. Our graduate enrollment, because we're heavily dependent on international students, is going to take a dip, because the international student population is just not as robust for a lot of reasons this year. So we will probably have a shortfall in graduate student enrollment, but our undergraduate students seem to be holding their own right now in terms of enrollment.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. And you know, this next question that we had submitted to us, it sounds kind of ominous, but I think that it, again, really speaks to the uncertainty that we're seeing, not just across higher ed, but across, you know, every sector of the economy right now. There's so many things that you do have control over, that the team has control over. Are there question marks out there that keep you up at night? Things that we just don't have an answer to that you're worried about over these next couple of months here?
Well, the thing that keeps me up most, of course, is the health and well-being of our faculty, staff, and students. That is something that I can't control, because when they leave campus, I don't know where they go, what they do, how they interact with people. We are, unfortunately, in the biggest hotspot in Michigan, in Wayne County, where we have the largest number of cases, largest number of deaths. We also draw from two other hotspots, Macomb and Oakland County. So that together, we are drawing from the hottest spots in Michigan, and that does have me worried about that. But at the same time, our students are so responsible. I don't think, I just saw a viral video of students in North Georgia, you may have seen it, having a big party last night, and there were hundreds and hundreds of students not wearing face masks, not socially distancing, drinking way too much alcohol, and they were just really doing risky behavior. Our students are not like that, so I'm very fortunate that our students are responsible, they're thoughtful, they don't do these types of high-risk behaviors. But it is something that is very worrisome to me, is I do not want to, I can understand people, especially when flu season comes, that people may be getting sick, but I definitely do not want to lose anybody that's part of our community.
Well, and when you talk about our campus community, I think all of us received a very exciting email from you last week. I don't think it's just good news, but really great news for 4 new student success initiatives that are being launched on campus. For those of us who might have missed that correspondence, what can you tell us about these new initiatives? How are they going to impact students, both past and present and future, here at U-Dearborn?
That's great. I'm glad that you brought this up, David, because President Schlissel a few weeks ago announced that he was going to reserve $20 million for both Flint and Dearborn campuses to invest in student success initiatives. Fortunately, we have been in a strategic planning process for over a year now with the ultimate goal of enhancing student success. So when he announced that, we were incredibly well poised to roll out much of the thinking that we've already done on how to help our students succeed. And it was just terrific news that now we're going to have the resources, because we were coming up with ideas, not knowing where resources were going to come from. And now we have the resources to start to implement some of these ideas. So let me just go through some of the ideas with you. The first one is something that we're calling Destination Dearborn, which is we're going to redesign and enhance our financial aid strategies to better support our students, especially students that have socioeconomic need. So that's going to be the first thing. And what's important about this is we're going to guarantee their financial aid package for all 4 years that they're here. In the past, it was decided every year what their new financial aid package was going to be, and now we're going to guarantee it for all 4 years. We also have the Dearborn Comeback, and this is for students that were close to graduation and somehow got derailed, and they still had some debt on their books for tuition that wasn't paid. We're going to try to help them get back to school and then guide them to the finish line and let them finish out. So that's going to be the Dearborn Comeback. We have resources for one-time pandemic need. So students and their families that I mentioned earlier that are really facing crisis situations, we're going to have resources to help them bridge the gap so that they can get a Dearborn education. And finally, we're going to be enhancing the student success initiatives around support and nurturing of our students when they're here. So we're going to take care of the finances with the first 3 sets of initiatives, but the last one is we're going to invest in advisors, counselors, career planners for these students and other programs that are going to help them get through to the finish line here. Right now, a lot of the onus falls on the students to figure things out. We're going to try to get in there and really give them a hand so that we can get them across the finish line.
I can only speak for myself when I say the Dearborn Comeback has got me all fired up. I can't tell you how many friends from undergrad where it's like they walked right up to the finish line and for reasons that were out of their control, just weren't able to get their hands on that degree. So for me, that's just an amazing opportunity. I think to take folks that feel like it's out of their grasp forever and to bring them back into the mix. So thank you so much, not just for that one, but for all 4 of those initiatives. I think they're real game changers for our campus community. You talked a little bit about the strategic plan within your last comments there. I'm going to kind of go out of order here on my questions. For those who are tuning in, if you're unaware, if you go to umdearborn.edu and you go to the About tab, you'll see a section that talks about strategic planning. I know that back in January of last year, phase 1 of a 4-phase plan kicked off, the goal of which, and I quote, is a fundamental reconsideration of our educational model. That's a big goal, obviously, and a big undertaking. Which potentially got disrupted with COVID earlier this year. So what can you tell us about that strategic plan, what its status is, and what the next couple months might look like?
Yeah, that's another great question, David. A lot of people were involved in the strategic plan. We had over 100 people. The report was almost 200 pages long. We had many, many great suggestions. Of course, COVID reared its ugly head and really threw everything into a flux. So we're going to be going back to the strategic plan very soon to see what in that plan that everybody worked on, that came up with ideas, is still very valid and still doable. And then we're going to revisit some of the ones that really have been changed because of COVID. We're going to try to figure out what the best way forward is. But the strategic plan is just a guide, a guiding document to help us think about what we're going to be doing in the future. And everything in higher education is now changed, as you probably know. And we're in a situation where we're very fortunate that we're a commuter campus. So we don't have residential components to our facility. We don't have a big medical center. We don't have a big sports program. These are all things that other universities are grappling with right now as we face COVID. So the question is, how do we take our unique position and really move it to our advantage, even more so than it has been? We have been a non-residential campus, and I think that there are a lot of advantages of that. But we could think about how we could work better with the community that we abut, whether it's Dearborn or Detroit or the big greater metropolitan area. One of the things that did come out of the strategic plan is a focus on what we call urban futures and what is the future of urban environments. Given COVID right now, I think that the future of urban environments is very different here today in August 2020 than it was in November 2019. So I think that this is another opportunity for us to really be leaders and best in designing what an urban future is going to be. And it really calls on all components of our campus. So I think that these are things that the strategic plan is helping us think through. We had some great ideas that we could launch right out of the gate with the resources that President Schlissel has identified for us. But at the same time, we're not closing the door. We're still having listening sessions, and I put out a request for ideas, for more ideas on student success initiatives. So we're really still gathering information before we move forward on where we're going to go with our strategic plan.
And again, for those who are tuning in, if you visit umdearborn.edu, under that About tab, I believe it's in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that strategic plan and have the opportunity to give your feedback, the feedback that the Chancellor was just talking about, and obviously wants to hear from each and every one of you. And speaking of each and every one of you, I think, Chancellor, when I was on campus, this idea of giving back to the community, being active and engaged in the organizations and the groups that really make our campus community what it is, I think that for me was a really defining element of my time on campus. And so in that spirit, let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about those of us who are tuning in today. For those who are lucky enough to call U of M Dearborn our alma mater, what can we be doing right now to help? Where do you see the need? What can we as alumni be doing to step forward and step out for our students and for our campus community?
Well, I think there are a few things that I think all alumni can do to help. And the first thing is to be proud of your alma mater. So as proud as everybody is of going to the University of Michigan, you should be equally proud of going to the University of Michigan-Dearborn, and not to drop the last part of that off of your resume or other interactions that you may have. And I am extraordinarily proud of being at the University of Michigan-Dearborn, and every opportunity I get, I always talk about Dearborn as a family tree. So I think we should all be proud of that and try to educate more people about what makes U of M Dearborn special, and be very proud of that. The other thing is, if you have any opportunities for our students by way of internships or just being a connection for career planning, or being a sounding board if you're an accountant or an engineer or a policy analyst. And our students want to talk to someone and say, what's it like to be a policy analyst for Governor Whitmer, for instance? These are things that I think all of our students would benefit from. And of course, if you have opportunities for research projects to work with our outstanding faculty as scholars, that's another big opportunity. And finally, I think that any place that you can get involved in activities that you see, whether it's strategic planning, that you see on our campus, that you think you could contribute to, would be terrific. And finally, I think that we still have financial needs. And we are the University of Michigan, but we are a separate campus. And we have our own financial resources. And every school benefits from the generosity of its alums. We benefit by your reputations, all the outstanding things you do, but we also benefit by your generosity in giving back, just as the individuals that came before you gave back. And we have a terrific engineering lab building that is almost complete now, but there are still many naming opportunities there. And last time I said this, people jumped on this right away. You can actually name a room in a new engineering lab building for as little as $10,000. And $10,000 sounds like a lot of money, but you could do that over 5 years. That's only $2,000 a year. And I know this sounds like an info commercial, but you can have your name forever inscribed on the engineering lab building for a very small donation. And for those whose generosity might exceed that, we would welcome anything larger than that as well. But that's one opportunity. We also have major need in financial aid. The amount of money that President Schlissel has given us is a start to building a much larger financial aid pool to help all of our students so they could spend their time studying on their education rather than working a second job to get through. And that will help them graduate, and it helps their entire family do well as well. So in essence, what we would love from our alums are three things: time, talent, and treasure. And with those three things, I think that we'll just keep skyrocketing as you all hope we do.
I think I'll reach out to Christina Frendo, see if she wants to go halvesies on a room at the ELB there.
You can do that. That's the other thing. You could hyphenate the name.
I'll let her go first. That's no problem. For $7,500, I'll do $2,500. Chancellor, one of the questions that we had come in prior to today had to do with entrepreneurship. And I know for me, over these last couple months, one of the things that has really, I think, heartened me is seeing the people, the small businesses, the entrepreneurs that are again, stepping up to do more and give back during a time of need. And I think that reinforces the importance of entrepreneurship and the role that Um-Dearborn plays in cultivating that type of excellence. So within the context of this pandemic, is there anything the university is doing to try and inspire or promote entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship?
Actually, the university has a lot of tentacles in the field of entrepreneurship. So the business school has a minor in entrepreneurship. We have classes that teach entrepreneurship in various aspects of the classes. We have the Talent Gateway that was built on the foundation of entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of ideas that students, faculty, and staff have created and are figuring out how best to bring it to market, so to speak. And this is an exciting opportunity right now in thinking about entrepreneurship around education, because we have to do education differently in this type of environment. But going forward, it gives us a pause right now to think about how we can do education differently, even after COVID. And there are entrepreneurial opportunities here for those who are creative enough to innovate and then and take it the rest of the way. But entrepreneurship is something that we're trying to build into the actual soul of the university in all aspects of it. As a matter of fact, when we started the strategic plan, one of the charges that I gave all the committee members was that we should think of this as a tabula rasa exercise. Tabula rasa means blank slate in Latin. And it was, imagine that we had no history that really hampered us, that we could think blue sky, what would this university look like? And and a lot of people came up with very creative ideas. So I don't think that there's any dearth of entrepreneurial activity on our campus. We've got a lot of very creative people.
And you talked a little bit in there about, sort of education and the delivery of education moving forward. You've obviously been in higher ed for the better part of your career. You've seen the changes and developments that have taken place over time. What do you think we're going to see related to the setting of higher education or the delivery of instruction, not just in the immediate here and now, not just for fall 2020, but long term? Do you see these being long-term changes, or might we go back in a different direction?
Oh, I think, I hope we don't go back, because I think that the directional arrow pointing forward is very exciting. There are a lot of things that have been changed because of technology as a matter of necessity. But these are things that I think we could build on to really make our educational system much more robust and have access for students and of all sorts of backgrounds, but access to very exciting ways of learning that we have not really capitalized in the past. And I think that there are a lot of people thinking about what this COVID crisis really means for education, and we're writing the script right now as to how the future is going to change. And what's exciting is that different universities are doing different things. So it's almost like we're on an evolutionary landscape to see which ones are going to outcompete the others and which ones are going to be better. But I would be very surprised if higher education and even K through 12 education is not changed permanently because of this particular crisis that we're all facing right now.
Chancellor, last question from our pre-submitted list. Talking about the budget, there's significant budget constraints due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you see any sort of reductions in available research grant opportunities for students? I guess any grant opportunities for students at that point. What are you seeing, boots on the ground?
So if the question relates to organic U of M-Dearborn dollars, we're having to deal with degrees of austerity here. So we are trying to be as careful as we can with our resources. But this is why I have asked our faculty to really increase their research productivity and writing for external grants to the National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, to the state of Michigan, to all sorts of places, so that when they bring in their research dollars, they can put our undergraduates on their research projects. And what I'm hoping for is that we can actually double our research, external exogenous research dollars coming into the university, so that we can put more of our undergraduates on those research projects. Then we can pay the undergraduates, they don't have to work, they get an academic experience, they work with a faculty member, everything wins in that type of situation. So we're working with the faculty to try to increase the research productivity in terms of external dollars, so that'll actually helps our undergraduate students.
Fantastic. I'll tell you folks, we're humming along here. That concludes the pre-submitted questions that we have for the Chancellor. So now we are going to open it up, look at some of the questions that have been submitted coming in through the Q&A feature. Just a quick reminder, if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see that Q&A button. Click it, submit your question. It'll come in, it's being populated for me so that I can ask it of the Chancellor. Looks like we've got about 20 more minutes here, so I think that's more than enough time to work through some of these questions that I've seen come in. And I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. The first one, I love to see this one. It has to do with sports. I've loved watching the resurgence of the athletics community here at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. What can you tell us, Chancellor, about the steps that we're taking, not just to keep our athletes on the field or on the ice or what it may be? What are we doing to keep our athletes safe at the University of Michigan-Dearborn?
Well, as I mentioned, we decided to forego our athletics season ahead of the Big Ten and the Pac-12. But at the same time, we're thinking about what the winter is going to look like. And, you know, it doesn't look good right now, to be honest with you, David. We're looking at significantly increased cases of both flu and COVID in the winter time. And this could create a perfect storm, another perfect storm, not that we need another one, but that could make things very difficult. Right now we're thinking about different options. We're thinking about delayed starts to the semester, about hybrids again, about whether we have an inverse of the fall semester. So all of those things are going to play a factor, but the bottom line is that our top priority, our very top priority, is keeping people safe. And that's what we're going to make our primary decisions based on.
I know that's appreciated, not just by the students, but by their families as well. No question about that. Second question that I see here under our Q&A, how do you see the culture of the university changing in the next 3 to 5 years? How do you see the culture changing at UM-Dearborn?
Well, I think that the culture changed on a dime a few months ago in March, right? We've all learned how to work remotely and with very long hours. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, the culture is going to change probably, but the things that I don't want to lose of the culture is that U of M-Dearborn is a family. It is more of a family than any other university that I've been to or that I'm exposed to. So this is a very tight-knit group of individuals, whether it's the students, the faculty, staff, alums. We all take care of each other. I want to make sure that that is preserved and propagates into the future. But at the same time, the next 3 to 5 years, I want to see us having a culture that supports students as our #1 top priority. That our goal is to not only attract students to campus and to make sure they are able to succeed, but that we support them in every way possible, and that our graduation rates skyrocket over the next 3 to 5 years, and that our students go out, are successful. I'll give you the whole picture that I see here. Our students graduate at higher rates, they're successful, they make tons of money out there, they give it back. We build more buildings on campus to support more students that graduate on time and are equally successful, and it just keeps building on itself, and the campus just takes off from there.
Well, this next question I'm looking at has to deal with just that, student success, and specifically within this new norm that we have today. The question reads, how can we better prepare students for succeeding within this new norm? Can we do curriculum adjustments, such as additional subjects to prepare students for embracing virtual and connectivity to contribute to society with their degrees?
I think these are the things that are entrepreneurial in nature. So I was exposed to some work that's being done at Arizona State, where they teach calculus, and they teach their calculus entirely online. And what's great about that is if you're going through a module in calculus and you run into something you don't remember from a previous part of calculus, you can actually click on it and it gives you a short tutorial to remind you of that. These are things that help support our students. So we're thinking about how we can use technology to support them even more than they already are. So it's not just sitting in a classroom, taking down the notes, and then they have to go figure it out on their own. that we're using all of the things that are changing around us right now. And this goes to lab experiments as well. I mean, perhaps you actually see the whole lab experiment done in front of you before you go into the classroom. You could see it online, and then you go in and try to replicate it and get that hands-on experience. So there are a lot of things that we're doing to try to use this as a time to rethink how we're doing our educational experience with online education. But there are other ways that our whole community is going to benefit. I see many of our staff working remotely, and if they continue to work remotely and we don't lose productivity, that means our catchment basin when we hire staff is going to be larger. That means that you don't have to live in southeastern Michigan. You can live in northern Michigan. You can live in western Michigan. We can get the very best individuals here from all around the state. And if they're still able to work remotely and maybe come to campus every once in a while, we can have that opportunity for these individuals as well.
Just a quick reminder for everybody, I'm seeing the questions start to flow in here. Don't forget to use that Q&A button at the bottom of our Zoom screen. Chancellor, you talked a little bit earlier about the distance learning to the extent possible, but then some, like our labs, have to be done in person. Can you talk a little bit about how in-person labs or any sort of in-person instruction on campus, how we are observing social distancing in those environments?
Well, we've had a great team led by Laura Drabchek, who's been figuring out how to do this. So all the labs are going to have 6 feet between every participant in it. They're going to be masked. They're going to have gloves. The instructor is going to have a face mask on, and everybody is going to be screened before they go into the building. So everything is as controlled as we can be in terms of keeping individuals safe. We're trying to keep them safe, but still offer this high quality education that we talked about here. So I think that right now we are as safe as you can be in this type of environment.
Fantastic. This next question, it deals with university programs and student life. And it's asking through or maybe because of a decrease in donations or funding from the state, the impact that COVID has had on our finances, what sort of impact should we expect to see on university programs and student life?
Well, right now we're actually spending a little bit more on student life because we're putting counselors online, and we're trying to support the students as best as we can. So in terms of student activities, we're hoping not to take any, we're trying to hold harmless the student experience, and as a matter of fact, increase the experience that they have or improve the experience that they have on campus here. But where the resources are coming from is making us juggle a lot of different things, and we're trying to make sure that every dollar that we spend is devoted to our top missions, and we're being very careful about how we're doing this right now. So that's the, you know, it's hard to say that there may not be down the line an impact on student life, but right now that's our top priority, is trying to keep student life harmless.
This next question, I tell you, I was reading it here as you were answering that last question. This is the type of question that makes me so proud to be a graduate, because of the way our graduates think and who we have a heart and who we have a mind for and our willingness to take on tough issues. And so I'm going to read this one verbatim. I don't want to not do it justice. It says, according to the current phase summary, the fall 2020 semester, which begins September 1st, will consist of a blend of remote and in-person teaching, with less than 15% of Um-Dearborn courses taught in person and nearly 20% of students attending a class on campus. The issue of having access to high-speed internet service disproportionately affects a high percentage of Black, Latino, and Native American households. What is the university doing to ensure equal internet access for current and prospective students?
That's an excellent question, and these are the socioeconomic challenges that we face, and this is why I am so excited to be part of this campus, because we're really we're really trying to do our best by these individuals. What we're doing is we're making access points available right now in parking lots, but we're also going to set up hoteling spaces for students that they can come in and use internet access for short periods of time in a safely distanced environment, and that's cleaned in between uses and is reserved, and the students are going to be able to take advantage of that situation. So that's we are aware of that, and it is an unfortunate scenario, but we're trying to deal with that as best we can.
Next question, back to the hybrid model of online and in-person learning. What percentage of students do you expect to return in person on campus versus staying in a remote setting? Has there been any thought about what those numbers look like?
Well, I expect that everybody who's enrolled returns in some form or another. And right now, our priority is going to be the lab courses that are difficult to teach in a remote setting. So it's really hard to say how many of the students are going to be affected by who's coming back and who's not coming back. So I really don't have an answer about what percentage of returning students that will be, but that are going to be on campus. But I hope that all of the students return in some form or another.
Absolutely. I bet you, looking at our participants here today, just about all of us were involved in student organizations when we were on campus. I certainly loved being in political science association, student government. Can you talk to us a little bit about the communication that's been taking place between the university, the administration, and our student organizations? And then if you can take it a step further, what do you think that we as alumni can be doing to support those student organizations in the fall?
Well, later this week, we have a student town hall so that we can have a very similar setup as this, and we're going to be answering questions of our students to help them. If you have particular organizations that you were involved in, I would write to Amy Finley and ask for you to be put in touch with that organization and see if you can get in touch with their president and see if there's anything that you can help with, especially if you are an alum of that organization. So that would be a terrific thing for our alums to do, is to reach back to where they may have had their start in a particular organization.
Next question deals with student employment. How has COVID-19 impacted student employment opportunities on campus?
Well, so we had a lot of students being employed, and when we went online, we actually found a way to keep the students employed. We had our students call all of the admitted students that had not decided to come to U of M-Dearborn and try to talk them into coming to U of M-Dearborn. And we kept them on the payroll, and we were using them in our enrollment management strategy as well. So I hope that worked, but we're trying again to hold students harmless, because we know that their student that pay that they make is part of how they finance their education. So we're doing our best to keep them employed in some form or another.
I love that outside the box thinking. They're trying to convince the undecideds to commit. I love that.
I wish that I could say it was my idea, but it was our vice provost for enrollment management, Melissa Stone's idea.
Fantastic. Well, big shout out to Melissa there. That's awesome.
Yep.
I know some of us who were watching the news earlier this week about the autonomous car lane that's being proposed from Detroit to Ann Arbor. Has there been any plan or thought given to how U of M-Dearborn might be involved in that autonomous car lane? And it says here, it might be interesting to influence its direction to swing them close to the U of M-Dearborn campus.
Yeah, I read the article, and I don't know too much about it, so I'm talking off the top of my head right now. But my interactions with Ford was that they were going to have a corridor between Dearborn and along Michigan Ave and Corktown. So I don't know if this is in addition to that. So my thinking is that there is still a lot of work being done on the Michigan Ave corridor between Dearborn and Corktown. I'll have to get with my folks on this and find out more details on that. But my goal is always to swing them through our campus.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful campus.
It is, indeed.
You've talked a little bit earlier about how all on-campus activities were going to be wrapped up by Thanksgiving of this fall semester. So obviously, not running it right up until the very end of the semester. Do you foresee a similar model being used for the winter semester?
Well, that's what I was saying. One of the models that we're exploring, David, is an inverse of the fall model, so that we would keep everything remote for the first part of the semester and then go face to face towards the end of the semester in later spring, because hopefully by then this massive wave of infections that's expected will have subsided by then. But we're trying to keep people safe during this window that everybody's expecting a significant increase in infections. So we may start in early January, but not come back to anything on campus until sometime in the end of February, maybe, or early March, or something along those lines.
Great. I know we're running close to 6 p.m. I believe we have one more question here that I haven't gotten to. I, of course, reserve the right to be wrong, and I'll give a quick scan through here as you're answering. But it talks about the large number of transfer students who attend U of M-Dearborn. What do you think could be implemented to help these students be more successful? And do you see more resources being dedicated toward transfer students in the future?
Yes, that's an excellent question. Actually, I have a very good relationship with the president of Henry Ford College, Russ Cavaluna, and we were just talking about programs, and Melissa Stone is working with them, that will help the students at Henry Ford be better prepared to transition, whether it's co-teaching classes with some of our faculty members or having them take some of the classes on our campus to get them a head start. But we're working on ways to help them be more successful. This year is particularly tough because I think community colleges as a group, there was just an article on Inside Higher Education this morning that said community colleges have been hit hard because of COVID. So if there's any kink in our armor with incoming undergraduate students, it's the transfer students in the fall. They might not be as robust as we're hoping for because the community colleges have been hit hard by this.
I see one more question here that we're going to try and fit in, Chancellor. Thank you again for being so generous with your time. You talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of where we can be supportive with our resources, our dollars, you name it. You talked a little bit about the student immediate relief fundraising efforts on campus. Just to wrap things up, are there any other immediate areas of financial need that you see on campus right now?
I think that we have a fund for an emergency fund for students that I would be very, it would be a great place to invest resources, because that definitely goes directly to helping students that are in an emergency situation. And we've raised a fair amount of money for that, but the need is going to only increase in the fall when students come back. So that is a terrific place to invest.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our allotted time. I do apologize if for whatever reason I missed a question that you submitted. If so, please charge it to my head, not to my heart. Chancellor, thank you so much for your time and your candor this evening. For those who are tuned in, if you want to learn more about our alumni engagement resources, go to umdearborn.edu/alumni. I absolutely love the team that we have working within our alumni engagement space. I know that they're ready and willing to go above and beyond to get you tied in to opportunities and resources to improve your experience as a UM-Dearborn alumni. If you are thinking about continuing your education Think about Dearborn's graduate programs. We heard the Chancellor talk earlier about the need that we're going to have there. It's a great opportunity to, again, to propel your life and propel your career forward. I'm going to wrap it up by saying, again, Chancellor, thank you for joining us this evening. Want to give you the opportunity, if you want to close. I don't want to commandeer the whole ending here. Anything that you might want to say before we wrap things up this evening?
I just want to say, David, thank you. You are the model of our graduates. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Just by being online is indicative of the fact that you have a special place in your heart for our campus. My job is to make you very proud of your education and to make sure that the students that are there now join you as successful alums. So I will say go blue and go Dearborn, and thank you again, David.
We're going to end it right there. Chancellor, again, thank you to our participants. Thank you. Alumni engagement, thank you. Have a great evening. Go blue, go Dearborn. We'll talk to y'all later.